everybody on stage Jonathan Ohayon, founder and director of Fake Movement. Come on up, Jonathan. And Hamilton Perkins, founder of Hamilton Perkins Collection. Don't trip on the cord here. Let's hear from Hamilton. And Meg and Komie Vora, co-founders and designers at Delicate Rain. Come on up, ladies. All right, thank you so much for being here with me tonight. I so appreciate you being here, and I appreciate your commitment to fashion. So we're breaking up the fashion and food panels into two separate panels because there's just so much to talk about. So we want to make sure that we have time to highlight each person. So each panelist obviously has a lot to say. So let's get started. So we're going to go through the why. Why does this matter? And I think framing it in that way is so inspiring because it really tells you why it's so important that we do make different choices for fashion and food. The how, what impacts are we seeing and how are we actually making a change? And then the what. So this is what we're seeing and what you can do in order to make an impact in the world. So Jonathan, we're gonna start with you. How's it going today? Good. How are you all doing out there? You doing well? You need some food, some of the delicious plant-based food, some liquid death. They have, I think they might have a little bit of iced tea left. I don't know. Maybe they're a little bit. And you checked out all of the brands, I'm sure, these sustainable brands that we have represented today. So you did well, right? On the break? Everybody's good? All right. So Jonathan, you stated that sustainable fashion is a journey starting with an open mind, understanding the problem, and a desire to be part of the solution. You founded the Fake Movement to bring awareness to how our consumption contributes to a system of unethical practices and to provide insight on how we can change our habits to better the system as consumers. Please share with us why awareness, as uncomfortable as it may be, is the key to changing our perspectives, our habits, and the future of fashion.
Okay. Hi everybody. Thank you for having me and for creating this. So why awareness is so important? I believe because it is the key to make any changes. You need to be aware of what's happening in order to make a change. And one of the main examples that I love to always use is comparing synthetic leather with regular leather. Can you hear me? I feel it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you look, for example, at synthetic, different alternatives of the pure PVC, which is like pure plastic, you will think, wait, this is very bad. I don't want any of those, and you're probably right. But then when you start to be aware of what's happening on the other side of leather, and you realize that leather is not a natural product, it's not a byproduct, it's a co-product full of chemicals. The natural product will be actually the skin of the animal, but that's not what you buy. If not, it will rot on your shoulder, and you don't want that. So it has to go through a lot of chemicals, between 50 and 250 chemicals, depending on the tannery, because each tannery have their own recipe. So when you start to be aware of that, you're like, okay, I don't want plastic, but I don't want leather, it's even worse. And I don't say you should all go to plastic, it's a better alternative, but you should realize that there's many studies, I always mention the Pulse of the Fashion Industry, made by Global Fashion Agenda, that prove that PVC, the worst type of plastic you can find, the production of PVC has 2 to 3 times less impact on our environment than the production of leather. So yeah, that's just an example to show how awareness for me is like extremely important. The only issue with awareness is that if you translate awareness in the business point, we'll call it transparency. And transparency is extremely complicated for a brand because if they are too transparent, the end, like ultimately will lead. Oh, is it okay? Okay, sorry. Ultimately will lead to to ask you to actually stop buying anything, because that's what fashion is if you want to save the world. So yeah, the best way to be aware is, of course, to look at the brand, especially transparent brand, but to make your own research. And yeah, I don't know if I go too far in the question, but that's why for me it's so important, awareness.
I love that you said that brands, if they're too transparent, they're going to convince people to buy nothing.
Exactly.
And that, you know, some brands, and quite frankly, some industries should be selling nothing, because it is so damaging to our environment and to humanity and to the animals. So, but with those companies, if there is awareness there and they are transparent, to make changes, to be more sustainable, to move in the direction of alternatives to, let's say, leather, since you're talking about that. Tell me a little bit about this idea of awareness and transparency, and you know how that can positively impact brands who are making a change to be more sustainable, more environmentally friendly, and what you've seen so far.
So how transparency can lead to positive for the brand? Everything. It's if you show, for example, if you are transparent on where you manufacture, you build trust. People will trust you. So transparency is all about trust. When you go to a restaurant and you go inside and you see the kitchen is open, you know, with big window, you trust the restaurant. You see that it's clear, it's beautiful, so you want to eat there. If you see a weird food and you don't know how the kitchen is, you're kind of afraid. So yeah, I don't know. For me, it's all about relationship. The more you're transparent, the more you build a relationship with the customer, and hopefully with all these events and all this awareness that people start having, they will ask for more. So you don't want to be a follower, you want to be a leader. So if there's any brand here, be a leader and be transparent.
Yeah, I totally agree. Thank you for that, Jonathan. And that is true, because I think all of us have changed. Has anybody here changed their mind on something in their lifetime? Anybody? Show of hands. Right, okay, so change is possible. And it probably started with awareness, right? There's awareness about something that you were doing, something you were choosing. And we're all capable of change, so that awareness is huge. And when brands show, even if they've made terrible choices for the environment, for the animals, for humanity, if they can be honest about that and transparent and show that they are also changing, they're also capable of change, I think those brands deserve our support. So even if they're not perfect yet, the idea of making these small changes is huge. So thank you so much, Jonathan, for your insight on that. I appreciate it. It's an incredible journey to see this happening. So thank you. So Hamilton Perkins, thank you for being here tonight. So you are with the Hamilton Perkins collection, the founder. I know you do some really cool things. So we're going to talk about the how. So when people think of fashion, it's come to separate ethical, sustainable, and plant-based. And while each of these terms are uniquely important, of course they are, let's talk about the full picture of ethics in fashion, so we can recognize the inherent interconnectedness of planetary, human, and non-human well-being. So please share with us how total ethics in fashion can lead us forward as a collective.
Thank you again for having me, and I want to start by saying that it's really complicated. Let's just start there. We don't claim to be sort of like the expert in the field, but we have learned some things in our day. To date, we've been able to impact about 1 million plastic bottles. Thank you. Our vinyl collections have exceeded into the hundreds of thousands of pounds. And what we started as a brand was to raise awareness. The purpose of this product was to bring awareness to what was going on. I came from retail. I was really excited about creating stuff, and I made tote bags, but I still had a day job. I worked in banking, so I saw that advertising continued to go up and to the right every year. And I was really curious about what happens with all that waste. And so our company, we collect that waste. And we try to be transparent when we do it. We try to show us in the field, getting the materials, wiping it down, cleaning it off, sending it to the factories, and then all the way to a finished product. And it's all for like the sake of the awareness. And I think when it comes to the why and the how, I think there's something that we all can kind of take away from it. Even if let's say you work at a company, because I've worked at companies before that, let's say, don't have waste. You can still kind of like empower an organization that is doing the work. So it's about being, a little bit more selective, a little bit more thoughtful when it comes time for employee gifts or Earth Month or any other events that you may have. Take a look and see like what type of organizations can you partner with, how can you kind of bring more value. Another thing that comes to mind as far as the execution is, it's a team sport. It's all about collaboration. We have, gone into so many different fields as far as like textiles are related. I mean, we've used vinyl, we've used parachutes, we've used sailboat sails, clothing, a little bit of everything. And again, it's just our job is to raise awareness. We may not be able to single-handedly remove all the world's waste and change all of the horrible things that are happening with animals, but at least we can be a part of helping bring some of that stuff to light. And that's the work that we do every day.
Thank you so much for that. And I like how you said, we can't single-handedly do this. No one can. The good news, right, is that we can all do our part each and every day in each choice in each moment, and raise awareness, and raising awareness for brands like all of yours that are doing so much good for the environment, for the animals, for humans. This is something that we need to do. So I like how you mentioned collaborating. We always need new ideas, of course. But more importantly, I think collaborating with existing brands, existing businesses, existing ideas who are doing so much good, instead of competing, collaborating is huge, because that's how we're really going to change the world, is working together instead of brand competition, right? And I'm not saying if somebody else wants to go out and pull down billboards and reuse that material, I think there's enough to go around. But
there's enough.
However, let's support you because you're here, you're doing great work. So tell us a little bit about what changes you've seen so far in this, because you're taking all of these items, like from advertising that, things that people would typically just throw away, and you're turning them into usable products like bags and things of that nature. So tell us some of the changes you've seen in the work you've been doing thus far.
And a thing I want to talk about too is just, I also want to piggyback on the transparency piece and kind of sharing what we do. I think we're seeing, and I think this is a good thing, we're starting to see more of like how things are actually done. And we had to kind of have our own moment of reckoning when we did a life cycle assessment on our product. We know that what we do is like, making an impact, and we're doing it, and we're working, and customers love it, but really sitting down and like showing from the time we collect the material, like anything, to the time it is produced, to the time the customer receives it, to the time the customer no longer wants it, what is its impact? And that work in itself, I would say, has changed, because I can't see a world, and I came up through retail in the late 2000s where there was brands. Now there's always been leaders in the field, of course, but now that there's social media, and now that I think that the customer wants to know, the customer wants to be involved, and it always, like, that's the change I think that we're seeing now. And I'm probably not telling anyone something here that they don't know, but we are all a part of the conversation now, and we have much more equity in this situation. So while we can vote with our dollars, we can vote with our likes, we can vote with who we choose to do business with, all of these things kind of, add up, and it's a change that, I think that it's positive, it brings a lot more value, and I think we're just on a path now where, if you look at, what is the goal? We're just in our journey. We want to impact hundreds of millions of bottles. We want to be into the tens of millions of, vinyl signs, et cetera. So I'd say there's still a lot of work to be done, even though there is great change happening, but, together we'll make it happen.
Yes, working together. Individually, it seems like an enormous task, and that's because, well, really, individually we can make changes, but to impact the entire world, we have to join forces. We need to work together. So thank you for that. And I'm going to ask about your products, all of you, after we're finished here with our questions. So, because I definitely want to highlight that as well. So Meg and Komie Vora from Delicate Rain, the founders of Delicate Rain, we're going to talk about the what. So each day our fashion choices make a statement to the world about our beliefs, our ethics, and what we value. You share that our bodies are our deepest connection to the earth and humanity as a whole. Delicate Rain redefines luxury fashion by optimizing unique, gorgeous designs, high quality, cruelty-free materials, and true ethical sustainability. You encourage people to dress like the planet depends on it, because it does. Please share with us what the future of fashion looks like, from thrifting to repurposing outfits, and when necessary, purchasing ethical, sustainable fashion.
Hey everyone, I'm Meg. Thank you so much for having us and the question. So, as owners and founders of a cruelty-free company, obviously one of the biggest things that we believe in that lies in the future of fashion is completely taking animals out of the fashion equation, but also innovation and really just dismantling instant gratification, because all of us are so used to this culture of mass consumption, and if we continue to consume in that way, there's going to be nothing left to consume. And so that really goes into sustainability as well. And while we understand that sustainability does look different for everyone, the way that we all can contribute to that conversation is by being aware of the choices we're making better choices, and leading with intent. Hi everyone, I'm Komie, just to differentiate who's who. But I think the future of fashion for us also looks like it's going to continue to be very conscious driven. So a lot of people are going to continue to support brands and companies that really align with their principles and missions of what really resonates with themselves. And they want to support brands that advocate for principles that they can really resonate with. And like you guys all mentioned, I think full transparency across the supply chain is super important. Who's making the products, where it's being manufactured, even are certain things certified? How are the working fair labor practices going on in the factories that you're deciding to choose to manufacture your products? I also see it we're at a really fun time right now actually, where fashion and science are merging together a lot. And there is a course, I believe, or a program at FIT where they partnered up with MIT chemists and engineers. And so what they're teaching these fashion students is how to, they've come together to create innovative textiles that are sustainable and plant-based driven. And I think that's really, really exciting, because it's teaching these students, these fashion students, how can I utilize these products in a physical form to make it into clothing. And we've already seen a lot of great innovative textiles on the horizon. Especially we've had great shifts in the leather industry specifically. Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it's really exciting because fur has been completely denounced in, from a lot of places. Exactly. A lot of fashion houses, even a lot of the bigger department stores, they refuse to carry fur or any animal-derived products from that nature. Leather is kind of the conversation that we're all kind of stuck on right now. It's a debate, and as Jonathan mentioned, PVC, even though that is a vegan material, it is not good for the planet at all. It's detrimental. So it's kind of like finding that sweet balance on, you can't check every box, but kind of being mindful of what box you are checking and the best way to do that. So right now we do have like the big three vegan materials that a lot of people are using, which is like the mushroom, the pineapple, and the cactus, right? But it's, you know, it's hard when these textiles are made, they're not automatically apparel grade. So when you try to make it for apparel, it goes through a lot more processes in order to get there. So if you can even just purchase the bag or the belt or a pair of shoes before you get to the clothing, that like makes an impact as well.
I think once the demand, I know a lot of times like people are like, oh, well, vegan fashion's so expensive. But I think also it's just like being really mindful of like investment pieces. And so once we create more of a demand and have conversations with people, the demand will be there, and then obviously it's going to be a domino effect, and so the price will reflect that. I think another thing that's really on the forefront is tech-infused fabrications as well. There are, I think there was a, if I'm not mistaken, it's pronounced graphene, where there's an element or compound in these fabrications where they're really, they're sustainable and they're vegan friendly, but they're also, it balances out your body temperature, and there's all these other like great benefits to it. So I definitely see the tech-infused fabrications going forward as well. And sustainability obviously completely on the forefront. We see a lot of like thrifting happening, secondhand stores, rental apps.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways, you know, there's just so many layers to it, right? Because it's like one part is how can you be a more conscious consumer if you want to purchase something new? But if that's not the avenue that you can take, or you don't have the means to do that, what else can you do? And you know, that really lies in thrifting and secondhand shopping. I mean, for the first time ever, it's actually cool to say you're shopping at the Goodwill versus, you know, hiding in a corner and saying, oh, I don't know, it was a gift, you know? So I think that that's really cool, and like being able to upcycle and, you know, with
work,
yeah,
remend your clothing.
exactly, and you know, Depop and Poshmark and all these other apps that you have available for that, yeah. So I think that the main takeaway though for this is just, you know, the future of fashion really lies in consciousness, compassion, and really being mindful with your choices and how you are going to purchase moving forward.
Thank you both. That was wonderful. And I don't even have a follow-up question because you were answering my follow-up question as you were going, which is fantastic. I love that. And I have to say, I'm a huge fan of thrifting, and I grew up with like all hand-me-downs. I'm the youngest of 6 kids, so like I had nothing new. And now it's cool, you know. So it's one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, okay, there was really something to that, you know. And I do really enjoy that. And the two of you, even though you own this fashion brand, right, this luxury fashion brand, on your social media platforms, you actually show yourselves thrifting and upcycling and reusing and repurposing things. And I find a lot of value in that because you're not constantly pushing people to purchase your clothes. You are showing people how to do things that are realistic and doable for them. Because we can make a difference. It doesn't matter if your budget is $5,000, $500, or $5. You can still make a difference and a huge impact with what you have and what you can do. So thank you for that, because it's just incredible. I love, especially love the tights. You did something with tights that was cool and different. And I saw that, I was like, oh, I never thought of doing that. That was amazing. So what I'd like to do is leave the audience with something actionable, something they can take away from this conversation that they can start doing today or this week, something that adds value to them now, so that they can start making a difference right away. And I'd also like to point out that we have Jonathan has 4 of his bags. I believe that there's cork, is that right? So he might give them up today to somebody. If you want to buy those bags, he might be willing to do that. They're in the back there. but there's only 4, so very, very limited. And Hamilton also has some of his bags in the back here too. And Megan, I don't think you brought anything from your line, but you can visit their website, delicategreen.com, and take a look at their items as well. So before we leave here today, tell me what your top, one, because there's 4 of you, that your one actionable thing that the audience can do to make a difference for the world in fashion starting today.
It's very hard to pick just one. I think you already know what it is one thing, just do it, start tomorrow. I often use this example. My cousin, she told me she told me I couldn't go vegan because I cannot give up on cheese. And I say, okay, so just go vegan, but keep eating cheese. At least start something, you know? And I know that then the next step will be just to stop cheese, which is easy, you know? So start whatever you have in mind right now, just start. Whatever it is, even if it's, I don't know, just, I don't have example, but something very simple, because by the moment you start, you put your first foot, then the second one will be easy to put, and then you will get there. Just don't find an excuse, just, oh, I cannot give up on cheese, so I won't go vegan. You know, so what is the next step? So just start whatever you have in mind, just make a commitment today, okay, I will start, and yeah, I think that would be the best I could give.
The one thing I would say is ask. Ask if you work at a company, what happens to my ads when they're done? Ask if you work at an agency of your client, what do you want us to do with your ads when they're done? If you work in a home goods business, ask what happens to all the chairs and the furniture when it's done. These are all ways that start to add up, and they can be a part of something much bigger, and it doesn't cost anything. And here's the great thing. If you work, raise the hands, who has a 9-to-5 here? Just raise the hands, anybody? Raise your hands. No. All right, there we go. Shout out my 9-to-5 here. So the point is you'll get free stuff, you know, and even if you don't, you're empowering stuff to be remade and be put to a different use. You know, this happens all the time. Like, we're always getting like referrals, and it really starts to make a difference. And you know, even if you have your own company or if you work entrepreneurially, you might think, you know, okay, we don't have stuff like that we actually use for advertisement. You still could empower like another organization, because like in our case, we tend to work with nonprofits a lot, like at cost or for free, basically. So you could still empower that work. So it all goes back to that one word, ask.
Okay, like Jonathan mentioned, there's so many ways to take this. But I think if a lot of people don't realize that when you no longer have use for something in your closet, especially if it has like a hole or some sort of damage to it, they just decide to throw it in the trash. And trash means it's never going to be able to be repurposed or reused. So if you do find something in your closet that needs mending, remember, the distressed look is in, but if that's not your aesthetic, then I mean, it's definitely our aesthetic, but we understand that that's not for everyone. So if it's not, I think it's really important to continue to educate yourselves on ways how you might be able to reuse something. So if you do find something that you can't mend, instead of throwing it away, ask somebody if they have a use for it, or if they are into the distressed look and they can use it instead, or at least, at the very least, go on YouTube or Google and figure out how you might be able to repurpose that into something else.
I think something that the next time, like, you guys want to purchase something that's possibly new, that's obviously sustainable and vegan, you should ask yourself how many usages you can actually get out of this product. So is it going to be something that is an investment piece for you? The best way to actually measure like sustainability is how long you can prevent it from going into the landfill. And I think I'm gonna sum it up there.